Hi everybody, welcome to a beautiful Tuesday afternoon here in PHANG, Thailand. Hope you're well wherever you are. And today we're talking about diseases. We haven't checked these numbers for a while. We're coming out the sort of back end of the wet season here in Thailand, in most places anyway. And the wet season is sort of the peak for a lot of these respiratory diseases. Also dengue, and we'll check those figures in just a moment, and also some prevention. Dengue is just one of those things that if you come from a country that's not tropical, you're probably not used to being ultra aware of dengue. You live here, you are. So I'll give you a few tips. And don't worry, we're also going to check the COVID numbers. Right, let's start with the Bangkok Post. Alert sounds over surge in flu, RSV and dengue fever cases. Don't worry, I'll explain what RSV is in a moment. The Public Health Ministry's voiced alarm over a rise in respiratory illnesses, as well as a jump in fatalities from increasing influenza and dengue fever. And here we go, we like some numbers. Between September the 7th and the 13th, more than 30,000 new cases of influenza and over 3,000 respiratory syncytial virus, that's RSV, cases were recorded. So what is this RSV? Respiratory syncytial virus. It's a virus that causes infections of the respiratory tract, and it's a common cause of respiratory hospitalisation in infants, and reinfection remains common in later life. Infection rates are typically higher during the cold winter months, causing bronchiolitis in infants, common colds in adults, and more serious respiratory illnesses such as pneumonia in the elderly and immunocompromised. Anytime we're doing these health stories and we're reading symptoms, I'm thinking, oh gee, maybe I've got RSV. And according to Wikipedia, other than vaccination, prevention measures include hand washing and avoiding close contact with infected individuals. Much the same with any respiratory disease. An RSV infection is usually not serious, but it can be a significant cause of morbidity and mortality in infants and in adults, particularly the elderly and those with underlying heart or lung diseases. Not a specific disease I've heard much about in the past. How about you? Have you heard about RSV? Well, what's causing all this anyway? Well, according to this article, erratic weather conditions, hot and humid afternoons, followed by heavy evening rainfall, and it's made it harder for people to adjust apparently, increasing the risk of illness. Well, that's the wet season some days. Let's go to the numbers on influenza. And from the start of the year to September the 20th, Thailand reported a cumulative just over 555,000 influenza cases and 59 deaths. And the age groups with the highest incidence were basically children, firstly aged 5 to 9, 0 to 4, and then 10 to 14 years old. And the numbers for the same period with RSV, they reached just over 16,000 cases, primarily affecting children aged 0 to 4. And just as an afterthought, the last paragraph, dengue cases have jumped during the rainy season. Across the country, some 43,500 cases have been reported this year, with 36 deaths. Respiratory diseases, generally, especially if you're mixing with a lot of other people, are a bit difficult to avoid. Dengue fever, however, is something that you can take particular steps to avoid. And a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, I used to be the CEO and the head writer in the English edition of The Thaiger, and I wrote an article about 10 things that you could do. So I thought for those people that might be newbies and may not know a lot about dengue or ways to avoid it, this is for you. And the top 10 ways to avoid getting dengue fever, written by this handsome man here, and this was published, it still is, on thethaiger.com. And there's no specific medicine to treat dengue fever. About 1 in 4 people infected will get sick, some very sick. A severe case of dengue can be life-threatening, and the most common symptoms of dengue include nausea, vomiting, a rash, muscle aches, and joint pains. And the symptoms can last typically 2 to 7 days. Most people recover in about a week. I should also mention that some people get very sick, and a lot of people do end up hospitalised if they contract dengue. And it's caused by this particular mosquito. A bit more about it later. So we'll just bang through this top 10 tips of ways that you can avoid dengue. And most mosquitoes hang around close to the ground, so your feet and legs dangling under the table are an easy target and out of sight. We love the sunsets in Thailand, and for morning people, sunrises. So do Aedes aegypti, the type of mosquitoes that carry dengue. If you smell nice, a hint of perfume or aftershave here or there, the mosquitoes will be attracted too. And for those people that like bland clothes, good news for you, mosquitoes are fashion victims and seem attracted to bright coloured clothing, strangely enough. Bland coloured clothes are less attractive to mosquitoes. And whatever you apply to your skin to deter mosquitoes, you'll need to reapply every few hours. And if it's hotter or more humid, more so. And if you've been out all day, yum, you'll be sweaty, salty and ripe for the mosquitoes. They like it dirty. And mosquito coils work very well as a general deterrent, but you'll need to be vigilant that the coil fumes are blowing in your direction. No use putting the mosquito coil on the top of the table if the mosquitoes are down under the table, and if there's a lot of wind around, well, they're not really going to do much use. And mosquitoes, like a lot of other insects, are attracted to light, so if the lights are off outside and on inside, the mosquitoes will be headed towards the light. And mosquitoes will track you down wherever you are, no matter if you're in a 5-star hotel overlooking the Andaman Sea or a backpacker's in the hills of Chiang Mai. Best to spray your room before you sleep and keep the doors and windows closed. And a mosquito net above your bed is a cage that keeps you in and the mosquitoes out. A good fan will also work very well, but it's got to be blowing hard enough so the mosquitoes can't make a 3-point landing on your body. That's pretty much our defence mechanism while sleeping. I've got the fan on number 3 and doesn't give the mosquitoes anywhere to land. Southeast Asia has been declared the region with the greatest risk of contracting dengue by the WHO. Instances of dengue are on the rise, but you're well able to control most of the risk factors. Pretty much a good thing to avoid. Touch wood, I've been here for 14 years, haven't yet had a case of dengue, and hope it stays that way. And finally, just because it's fun to trigger some people out there, we'll quickly do the COVID numbers. And this published in Nation Thailand, this last report from June the 12th, Thailand records some 439,000 total cases in 2025. Bangkok leads with the highest daily cases. Biggest city, biggest population base, so that makes sense. And that brings the total number of fatalities since the beginning of 2025 to 130. And basically reminding us nationwide, first 6 months of this year, nationwide total reached 439,527 confirmed COVID cases. And I don't need a crystal ball to magically predict what some of the comments are going to be. The bottom line, however, is that there are some respiratory diseases still around, and certainly dengue is just one thing living here in the tropics that we need to be aware about. Hopefully that might have been useful to some people. Don't forget you can buy me a coffee if you feel inclined. Please subscribe to the channel. We're sort of closing in on 50,000 real subscribers. And thanks for your support. We'll see you next time.